Part 4.
So a couple of years ago, when I was in college, I was involved in this film sword fighting group. But anyway, so there was this alumni event, and there's this guy who showed up who happened to be from Cincinnati, but he was basically just hitchhiking around the country and totally being a vagabond. And so that sort of inspired me too, in that, oh right, this vagabond and hobo stuff is actually a thing that's still happening, and that's really cool. So I was really inspired by him too, and it was great because when I was in Minneapolis on a Megabus tour, like, I actually was staying with him at his house where he lives. It's, you know, eco house type thing where it's a really cool thing. But yeah, so that was another inspiration to me, is just seeing, oh right, people are actually doing this.
And I think because there's more and more of us on the planet, it makes sense. It's reflective of the reality here that there are more and more people getting into this. But I think there's a darker side to it that it reflects.
What is the darker side?
Well, some of just where our culture's at these days, like what allows for someone to do Megabus, like what that means in a post-carbon world to like use up more carbon resources.
Yeah,
like
but at the same time, it's Megabus versus getting in a car. So
I'm not arguing a point. I'm just talking.
I do think about that a lot.
But the point is that I see this trend more and more with vagabonding, and there's playing that against a more place-based culture, which we are less and less so. We're more spinning out into the ethers, which I think has a ton of value, and it's beautiful. So I'm not trying to discredit. I'm trying to deepen it and to like allow for that to happen, but also through place-based rooting. So as we vagabond, like to reestablish these connections to community when we go to those places. I felt that some tonight, like the cyclical nature of what we were doing. That like people were sharing things with each other. Like that is an ancient way, and was less of this like. And even like I was just at a music festival and just imagining what it takes to get 25,000 people to this farm.
Which one?
In Summer Camp Festival in Illinois. There's like all these people here, and what it represents to our American culture that we can import 25,000 people or whatever the number was to this place and trash it. Just thoroughly trash the place. Like the forest, just everything there. Yeah. Set up these stages, spend this money, like the amount of money that went through that, and the amount of money that was reaped from it, from the entertainment industry that put it on, all that kind of stuff. But we were searching for something magical, and everybody was there for that. That it's maybe possible to find some of that in these less impactful communities. The same as what we found some of here tonight. Like a bit of that magic.
We trashed this place.
Yeah, we had
some of the
dishes.
windows are busted out.
Oh, we had to do like 2 sinks of dishes. It was crazy.
Did people clean it? Because I remember I told us like right before you end the show, I was like, "You guys, make sure."
There was one extra sink in our normal night. You know, it's like that's.
So I'll help out.
I went to get my paper plate; it was already gone, so it was like perfect.
Cool.
But
I say all that to get back to what like a question earlier. I've been kind of cataloging some of these questions, because right now in my life, personally, where I'm at, Amy and I met in India.
Oh, wow.
So we were travelers before settling here. One of the reasons we chose to root here was so that we could pick up and walk away and have some place to come back to, which is really difficult. It's like, it's the same difficulty as like all the questions of like how do people find this path in life?
Yeah.
Like how do they, like what are you guys doing that like helped you transition from a more stable job and whatnot? I think we're still struggling with that, trying to lean toward it for sure.
How so? Like how does each person or couple find the right balance? Because on Facebook, I have a lot of disagreement about this when I talk about kids versus not kids. Not having kids?
Yeah.
Boy, you should see the firestorm.
Well, for me, I've just got a dog, and my parents would watch him for a while. So, I don't know if that would be applicable to
Yes, it was. Oh, yeah.
Maybe. No, I knew some folks in Ontario, actually, couch surfers, who took their kids out of school for a year and couch surfed around the country. So, there's some people who have shown me that way. But for us right now, we don't have kids. We have a house. There's obligations there. But this house is large enough that, one, it can host people to do magical things together in a lower impact way. And it also potentially could host people to live and care for the house itself
Yes.
while
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah.
And I think that's a different pattern to explore. The sort of like what nomadic cultures used to do, instead of just like we would go to a new place all the time, there were seasonal places and there were seasonal patterns and migratory patterns, and you would come back to the exact same spot. There's that same tree that we visited through generations, and we've come back here, and this would be one of those trees, and we would come back here through generations.
And Chris, just to quickly interject and add something to that, I watched a video earlier, a couple videos on perpetual traveling, and there's one guy in Australia, and is this your beautiful dog right here?
This Ruby.
Ruby? Do you want
It's
to...
our roommate Kate's dog.
All right, so
Running circles.
what he suggests to do, and this is kind of an interesting idea, what you said about the real estate, and he suggests having stocks and investments in certain countries, and then like going to India where it can be cheaper, and so you can live, he says, to live in one part of the world for 6 months. And I mean, again, this does not have to be what people do, but you could fund your lifestyle. I've thought about the same thing with my townhome, of renting it out and then living in like Brazil or Colombia for the other 6 months, because that rent money can fund, and that can still do online teaching and other things. What are your thoughts on that? Like living geographically, almost. There's a term for it. What do they call it? And Tambo, you've talked about traveling, and that's his nickname too, I guess, right? Tambo, you've talked about Tambo.
It is now.
Tambo.
Call me whatever you want.
I mean,
Okay, whatever you want.
is that part of the nomadic culture that you can be a gypsy worldwide now through the internet, and you don't necessarily have to be geographically localized in one area? What I mean, can you split your time across different areas to pursue that lifestyle, or is it better to stay in one area and then travel and come back? I mean, how do people find the right balance? Like,
It's a spectrum for sure, and there's a balance and perhaps ethical concerns too, with like what it means to outsource yourself to those other places based on their economic realities. But the same is true inside America, like this more homogenous but still widely different economic reality in America. And we don't have to all be the same. This is where I'm at right now, with like playing with some of these ideas. Versus, and my intention in the next year or two is to get out and vagabond for an extended period of time. Like just real quick story, I finished school for composition, for music. It took me 8 years to do that. The last 2.5 were finishing my senior project. I was writing a musical. And that took me way too long, 2.5 years. That's a stupid amount of time. I would be starving if I had to do that for a living. You'd have to churn out that work a lot faster. So that wasn't a good pace for me. And the reason I couldn't do that is because I had to learn some other things. So I chose to route to learn those things to like be a ton quicker and be able to like work through those processes with efficiency and skill. But I had to learn some other things that were completely unrelated to music. But now I'm going to get back into music with those new skills that we're like building with this house, renovating, things like that. The job that I'm at currently, like those kind of skills that I'm learning, that I'm applying to that thing. And I'm just hearing the chickens that are in the room back there.